Alright, YouTube, it's time to talk about Hillary Clinton's demeanor. I'm not talking about her, health issues, which she obviously has. I will say this, as a quick aside on those, the fact that you have an NPR commentator talking about, oh yeah, they might be quietly looking around for a replacement for Hillary Clinton. I give like a 99% chance she sticks with it with no problems. But yeah, it doesn't look bad when apparently there are people within the party talking about that. But I think her demeanor ultimately is perhaps even more damning, really, than health problems, untrustworthiness. That's a bad one. That's probably the worst term you could be tarred with because you can't do anything to prove that you're not untrustworthy. You get known, you're known in a community as a liar, then anything that you try to say in your defense, well, that's just more lies. That's the problem. But Hillary Clinton, I think subconsciously a lot of people look at her, the term angry stepmother has been used, but I prefer Dolores Umbridge from Harry Potter. Now, Dolores Umbridge, of course, was the bitch from the Ministry of Magic that goes to Hogwarts, shits it all up, and she's basically the only character in the series that's scarier than Voldemort. We've all had a teacher that's like that, or somebody else, some female figure that's like that. The overbearing, overprotective sort of helicopter parenting individual. It's sort of the counterpart to the lazy or drunk or can't do anything beer-bellied father figure that we also all know. We all know some dude who's like that. He just bumbles around. He doesn't really know how to do anything. He brags about he was on the football team once 30 years ago or something like that. And that sort of male individual would be sort of the natural counterpart to the overpowering female, which is really a female who seeks to suppress, who makes catty remarks, somebody who generally is not overtly aggressive. That is, they're not going to fly off the handle in the public eye. Sort of like, you'd think of with the angry stepmom sort of thing. Somebody who you do something wrong in public while you're with this individual, and you know that you're not going to get in trouble while there are other people around. But as soon as you're alone with her, either the icy silence begins, which cuts like a knife, or the constant haranguing and nagging begins, or a beating begins, I suppose. I don't think Hillary Clinton routinely beats people, but I certainly think that the former two probably fit her persona. But your subconscious really is hardwired almost to see this sort of emblematic symbolism behind Hillary Clinton. She's an older female. She's got like the shortly cropped hair. She's got like the Iron Lady thing going on that she tries to broadcast around herself as sort of imagery, sort of Margaret Thatcher-esque. And Margaret Thatcher was much the same. It's actually very funny. They look vaguely similar. They act vaguely similar. Their policy proposals obviously aren't quite all there. Although I will say, Margaret Thatcher was just a neocon, so on that token, yeah, she's a little bit like a neolib, like Hillary Clinton. I think sometimes people forget this. But a female who technically has charisma, but misuses it in such a light that it doesn't really have the intended effect. It's not like the nurturing female, or the strong and noble female, or something like, or the wise female, the wiser old woman, the wise one, all these different sort of stereotypical tropes that would fit in. Sort of like, you've got the brave man, then you've got the sort of wizardly old dude, then you've got the just man. He comes from low origins, he's always got dirt under his fingers, but he works hard for his family. Sort of these sort of icons that our minds build. Really in order to help us understand the world around us. There's a reason why this symbolism is so prevalent in, for instance, fictional literature or movies or something. It's not because somebody concocted those things artificially. They've come from tales that are thousands and thousands of years old. And really it's the repeating journey of these various characters throughout the very small number of actual stories that have ever been told that's part of a deeper human psychology. Your psychology, when you look at Hillary Clinton, especially if you're male, but not always, females would look at this too. Your mind is telling you this is an overbearing female. She thinks very highly of herself, extremely legalistic, and that's the sum and substance, really, of what you're thinking. She acts like this. The way she speaks, the way she carries herself, in a way, is very, very similar. Upright and legalistic, sort of like always judging everything around her. And I think that's one of her biggest problems. I think one of the reasons she's not doing as well with female voters as people suspected that she would, it has nothing to do with her untrustworthiness. I think it has to do with the fact that many, especially younger females, look at her and they think of the angry stepmother too. Or they think of that bitch bank teller that told them to go to the end of the line. The bitch teacher that told them that the tiniest rip in their clothing would get them sent home because it was inappropriate. The bitch parent that told them, oh, well, you have to eat the asparagus, otherwise you don't get any dinner at all. Sort of the overbearing parental authority figure. And the natural human reaction to authority, I would say unfortunately, is to obey it. But when that authority is overtly like that, when it is in a subdued sense, not outright aggressive, but in a subdued sense, it's passive-aggressive. It's veiled, but it's still there. It's sort of, instead of, well, do this or I'll beat you around the head, it's you do this or else you're just going to suffer in general for the next week. It's actually perhaps in some ways more psychologically vicious in many ways. I would say your mind certainly recognizes Hillary Clinton as one of these individuals. Now, this can be applied to men too. There are plenty of overbearing men, but the gender does have something to do with the way that your mind categorizes it, because again, hardwired into the human biology. There are people who don't like to admit that. There are people who would like to think that that doesn't mean anything, but it does. From a biological standpoint, the human mind does make that differentiation. We can talk about like transgenderism and stuff. That's a totally separate issue. I don't give a fuck about that. As far as Hillary Clinton goes, she is the stereotypical, she's the pinnacle, I would say, of the overbearing sort of Dolores Umbridge female who can deliver herself with great quiet up on stage. She'll speak in the low voice and use very well-chosen, slow-cutting words to try to take apart an opponent or something like that. What you're really hearing, though, is somebody who is feigning authority as a psychological veil for their own aggressiveness that nonetheless they are too cowardly to show in a physical manner. That's basically what Hillary Clinton boils down to. It was funny, Ramsey Paul earlier had a video where he talks about, oh, well, if she wins, then people like me will be at great risk. I concur. Yeah. Some of her foremost critics, I think it depends on how critical you are and how popular you are. Some of her foremost critics do appear to have dropped like flies since this campaign began. Of course, this happened in the 1990s too. People, former DNC staffers and others, people set to testify against her keep dying, and it is all very mysterious. But you do have to understand one thing. It does take a lot of money to hire a hitman. So the Clintons aren't just going to randomly kill everybody who has more than 100 subscribers that's critical of her. It'd begin to look a little bit conspicuous after a time. And I personally believe Hillary Clinton's not going to win. I think we've already seen the end of the Clinton dynasty. The fact that Hillary Clinton's not running away with this race is the end of the Clinton dynasty. The Clinton dynasty can't survive the internet age. If she wins, it'll be by a hair. And I don't think it's likely that that will happen. It would be by a hair. She wouldn't have the ability to do much. She'd be facing huge opposition, probably from even within her own party. She'd be a one-termer. She might not even survive that term. Look, she's got pneumonia again. First, her campaign said, there's nothing wrong with her. She's got no health problems at all. She's healthy as a horse. Then they said, oh yeah, she's got some allergy problems. Give her some fucking, we'll give her some ibuprofen. Then they say, oh yeah, she had pneumonia and overheated. So that's like the third time that they've changed their story. I find it a little bit mysterious that there aren't more people, actually. I realize the mainstream media has actually taken up the story, which I didn't expect would even happen. I expected them to spin it and say, oh yeah, Hillary's just fine. It's totally normal for someone to basically become unresponsive and not even be able to stand in 80-degree weather. Totally normal, happens to the best of us all the time, let alone the fact that she's almost 70. We asked about McCain's health. I would think it'd be fair to ask about Hillary Clinton's health, but no, apparently that's like sexism or, some bullshit like that, or it makes you a deplorable person. It puts you into that evil basket of deplorables along with, Nazis and stuff like that. Nazis and those who want to kill immigrants and various violent personas. Now, if you question Hillary's health, you're right in that basket alongside with them. I did find it funny. Being liberal did try to spin it. Oh, it's actually not tens of millions of people. It's only like a few million people, and she's probably right. Okay. It's not what she said, but okay. You keep living in La La Land if you would like to. But no, Hillary Clinton is Dolores Umbridge in your mind. You may not even make the conscious connection. If you don't like her, if you're like a Trump voter or you think she's evil, yeah, you probably openly admit it. But even if you're a Hillary Clinton fan, ultimately, somewhere in your subconscious, you're not identifying her with the strong, eagle-bound, heroic Joan of Arc sort of heroine trope. You're identifying her with the Wicked Witch or something like that. The Wicked Witch works, or the Black Queen, or the Queen of Hearts from Alice in Wonderland. Really, those are the sort of things. Or that the woman with the cat from Wizard of Oz, the school teacher, I think it was, the one who is like constantly harassing. What the fuck's her name? Dorothy. Something like that works. It's all the same story. The reason why this iconography, why this sort of symbol of the evil, older, overbearing woman is so prevalent in fairy tales, it's prevalent in Hollywood, it's prevalent in books, it's prevalent basically everywhere, is because it's a popular symbol. Because it's popular within your mind. You just don't quite realize it consciously unless you're actually looking for it. You're looking for a comparison specifically because you don't like this person. Yeah. And Trump, his symbol, whether you like it or not, whether you even consciously believe it or not, is the successful billionaire, the successful sort of tycoon individual, which I would think, even though it has its own negative connotations, possibly corrupt. Well, Hillary's cornered the market on that, so that's not really a problem in this election for Trump. Maybe not concerned with the plight of the poor. I think he's made inroads into convincing people that he does care about them through his rhetoric. Well, again, whether you think consciously that it's, actually true or not is a totally different story. But you probably identify him more as the sort of Alger-Hiss tycoon, whereas you identify Hillary Clinton as the, silver spoon, the blue-blooded plantation mother, something like that. That's about all. Peace out.